American kids can't read. And my question is, why are you surprised? School is back in for a lot of states. And apparently, people have been living under a rock. Welcome back to CWM University, where we learn together. And today, we're going to learn why kids can't read. Because what do you mean that you're shocked? What do you mean you're on social media crying because kids can't read? Kids been, and I mean been, not knowing how to read. And I already know somebody gonna say, well, COVID. No, COVID made the problem worse. I'm not denying that. But this problem did not start with COVID. And when I say kids can't read, I'm not saying that kids cannot identify words. I'm talking about the kids who are years behind the grade level they should be reading at. Those kids that can read the words but can't tell you what they just read. Kids who struggle with just the basic words and they have been pushed from grade level to grade level to grade level without mastering those fundamental skills. And at some point, we have to ask, when is enough enough? And I'm speaking about this as somebody who's seen this in the classroom for 11 years. Kids would come to my math class and couldn't work a word problem because they couldn't read it, which always broke my heart. And let me tell you something else that used to drive me crazy as a classroom teacher: grades and how they had to be changed. So a student would not turn in an assignment, I would give them a zero. But some of the schools I worked at, the policy was I had to change those zeros to 50s. Do you know how much that increases your grade average when I turn all your zeros? Say you had 10 zeros and I turn them all to 50s for you not doing the work. And see me, I'm keeping it a zero until the last minute. And I'm calling your parents. Anytime the grades are due, I'm calling your parents. And I'm calling your parents. And I'm calling your parents to let them know that you're not doing your work. Because I didn't think it was fair to turn a zero to a 50. But I also knew I had rules I had to follow. I wanted the parents to understand that their child is not doing their work. I wanted the child to know that if you don't do no work, you don't deserve the grade. Because if I just give you stuff, give you stuff without you showing the effort, then at some point it was going to show up in that child's academic career that they just got passed along, and they wasn't able to perform. I'm not helping the child by just pretending that they mastered something and just giving them a grade. Because when they got to the next grade level and didn't know the skills they needed to be successful in that grade level, then it looks like, what did you learn in the grade before you came to me? And what's happening is social media is looking at students that are now in middle school and high school who have been struggling for years upon years. And then suddenly everybody's asking, how did this happen? But this problem of not being able to read and comprehend what you read happened long before the student got to middle school and high school. And before some of y'all come for me, let me make this very clear. Some students do have things going on that make learning significantly harder. I'm talking dyslexia, ADHD, language disorders, hearing and or vision problems. And some students have disabilities that require for them to have specialized instruction and support. And to be honest, some kids are just dealing with things at home that me and as an adult wouldn't know how to cope with and be able to go to school and do my work and learn what I need to learn. But one thing I can tell you is those kids don't need somebody calling them lazy. They need support. They need help. They need somebody to believe in them. But the question is, are we getting them the help that they actually need? Because as a classroom teacher, there was only so much I could do to help each student during the day. And when I got to middle school, there was less time I had with each of my students to try to make a difference. As a teacher, I could document my concerns, communicate what I'm seeing. And the schools, of course, have different processes for intervention and evaluation, but the parents need to be involved in this process as well. What they say, teamwork makes the dream work. As a parent, if you think something isn't right, ask the question. Don't just sit back and hope it magically fixes itself. Ask the teachers, what reading level is my student on? What specifically are they struggling with? What interventions, if any, are they receiving? And how often? You need to know the answer to these questions for your child. And if you don't understand an answer the school gives you, ask them again. If they give you the same answer, well, then talk to me like I'm a 3-year-old because I have no idea what y'all saying. And I'm sitting here trying to help my child. As a parent, you're your child's number one cheerleader. If nobody else is going to help them, they should be able to depend on you to help them and to fight for them. Yes, the school is responsible for educating your child. This is true. And some of y'all may get mad at this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Parents, you have a responsibility. Learning can't only exist between the hours that your child is at school. You have to make sure your child can read, that your child can add, divide, multiply, and subtract. And if you can't teach them, that's okay. Find somebody who can help. I'm talking about go to your local library. Ask them, do they have any resources? Go to the local Boys and Girls Club and see if they tutor children during the day. Ask them at the school, hey, do y'all have after school tutoring that I can sign my child up for? Because nowadays, most schools do. Shoot, ask somebody at the church. Ask them if they have somebody or know somebody who can help you. There has to be somebody in your life who is willing to help you to make sure that your child is literate and can have the basic needs they need to survive in this world. And if the school is not doing what they're supposed to be doing and you know they're not doing right by your child, communicate your concerns in writing. Don't just go up there going off on those people, giving them a piece of your mind because you have no proof that it happened. Communicate in writing. And this time of day, you have AI. Put down everything you want to say and then put it in a professional email and they'll write it out for you. And then you send that email to that teacher. You send that email to whoever needs to hear that email, whether it's the interventionist, the principal, that child's AP, that you have concerns. Because after working in education for 11 years, one thing I know for sure, if it's not in writing, it didn't happen. Ask the questions you have to ask. Follow up if they're not responding. Find another email. If that email doesn't work, maybe you have the wrong email. Find another email. And don't just accept the answer, they're doing okay. What does okay mean? How much percentage of this skill have they mastered? Where are they lacking in? Don't just take they're doing okay. Because as a parent, you know your child and you know if your child is behind. But you may ask, how do I know if my child's struggling? I don't know what they're supposed to be learning. So this is what you do. You pay attention. Just watch your child. Do they avoid reading at all? They don't want to open a book. They don't want to read out loud to you. When they don't know a word, do they try to sound it out or are they just guessing? When the word is blue and they're saying dinosaur, can they read something and then tell you what happened? Can they even tell you who the character was in the book? Or are they struggling with things that you think may be from a lower grade? So if you give them a book to read from second grade and they're in the fifth grade and they're struggling to read it, bingo, there's a problem. And you have to find out why your child is struggling. So just make sure you're paying attention. Just because they're struggling with simple things doesn't mean they have a disability or they have a hard times learning. Maybe it's just some things they need extra practice on. But how will you know unless you're paying attention to your child? And a lot of people want to know, what can I do right now to help my child? It's very simple. Read to them. Read to them something that's appropriate, whether it's in a book at your house, it's the instructions on the back of a cake box. Read to them. Let them hear you read. Count with them, especially if they're younger. Start counting. All right, before we leave the house today, we're going to count 1 through 20. Let's go. On our way to school, we count 1 through 20. We walk into school, 1 through 20. We're going to count these numbers every day until you got them down. And not only read to them, let them read to you. And when they finish reading, don't just say, oh, that was a good job reading. Ask them questions. I don't care if the book was See Spot Run. Ask them, what did we see Spot do? What was Spot doing in the story? Ask them questions about what they read, because then you could tell if they're comprehending what they're reading or are they just calling words. And I'm not telling you that you need to do this 3 hours after work every single day. That's ridiculous. We know a lot of people have multiple jobs because what? The economy is trash and we got to make money. But I'm talking 15 minutes a day. Today, I'm going to read to you. Tomorrow, for 15 minutes, you're going to read to me. The next day, for 15 minutes, we're going to work on multiplication facts. The next day, for 15 minutes, we're going to work on subtracting. 15 minutes. I promise you, it will make a difference. Make learning at home a normal part of your routine. You got 15 minutes. I promise you, even if it's right before bed, take that 15 minutes to make sure that your child is where they need to be. Let's have a little moment about these screens. Now, I'm not anti iPad or anti technology. I think technology is good when used correctly. However, we cannot stick iPads in these kids' faces for hours and then get mad when they don't want to open a book and read. If you're going to let your child have screen time, why not let it be educational? Stop letting them scroll on TikTok, scroll on Instagram, and scroll on YouTube shorts. Put something in that iPad where it is educational and it is teaching them something. If you know some good apps for kids to learn how to read, practice their math facts, put them in the comments. So the people that are looking for those type of resources can have somewhere to start. But at the end of the day, technology should be used as a tool. It should not become a replacement for students to actually learn. Because we all know Wi-Fi goes out, batteries die, and programs stop working. And your child needs to know how to read if these things are not available to them. And at some point, we got to stop blaming each other. Everybody's pointing fingers. Parents pointing fingers at teachers. Teachers pointing fingers at the admin. Admins pointing fingers at the curriculum and the policies. And everybody is blaming COVID. Meanwhile, the child still cannot read. And really, I really don't care who fault it is. My question is, what are we going to do about it? The child should not have to pay for adults passing the responsibility back and forth. We all have a part to play. Parents, teachers, admin, schools, families, the community, anybody that is involved in that child's life. It takes a village to raise a child. So, where is the village to help our children and make sure they know how to read and just use basic math skills? Where's the village? Because pointing fingers is getting us nowhere. And one more thing on this little rant that I'm going on. We have to stop pushing our kids more in sports than we do academically. And let me tell you why. Because your child knowing how to throw a football, shoot a basketball, kick a soccer ball, do a backflip, dance and run track, all that's wonderful. I was the loudest one in the stands cheering my students on. But at the end of the day, can they read a contract when it's put in front of them because they started to excel in those sports? Can they manage their money? And can they function independently? Those basic skills are going to matter for the rest of their life, not how good they are in sports. And I know as a community, as a village, we can do better for our children. I don't care if your parents never read to you. I don't care if nobody helped you learn how to count. Maybe nobody was there to help you with your homework. And maybe you didn't have the childhood that you thought you should have. But now you have the opportunity to do something different. Learning starts at home and then continues at the schoolhouse. And when a child is struggling, home and school don't have the luxury of pointing fingers at each other. Somebody has to intervene. And after being involved in education for as long as I did, I'm an advocate for children. And I'm going to stand up for them and I'm going to do what's best to try to help them succeed. And I believe it's the adult's responsibility to make sure that children have the opportunities to thrive and survive. So you have a child in your life, whether that's your child, your grandchild, your niece, your nephew, the neighborhood kid that keeps coming by your house, however they're connected to you. Make sure they know how to read. Make sure they know what they're reading, that their comprehension skills are there, and make sure they know how to do basic math. Hey, we're going to do a math lesson 20 minutes and then y'all can go outside and shoot basketball. Or, hey, we're going to read this book for 15 minutes and then y'all can go ride scooters. And if they can't read or they don't know basic math, don't shame them. Don't talk about them. Don't make it a joke. Find out a way to help them because children not knowing how to read isn't just affecting their parents. Eventually, it will affect us all. And I know y'all gonna have y'all opinions about this topic. So go ahead and leave them in the comment section if you haven't already. And if you know of any free or affordable resources that parents or caregivers could use for children to help them with their reading and their math skills, please drop them below. Maybe that one comment can change the trajectory of a child's life from not being able to read to being able to. It takes a village. Thank you for watching my rant, and you already know. Until next time, peace out.